I was ready for a major boost in my spiritual understanding and connections. Made the decision intentionally, eyes wide open, and it has been everything and more of what I expected. Some of my classmates came in with the same idea of being ready for a big boost, and we've all gotten it.
It's been a beautiful process for me to grow. My clients have benefited from it. It's just so neat with the meditation practices, learning about chakras and learning about clairs and all of the fine details. You may think that you know it all, like, we don't know it all.
I found in the EMA program with the separate mentorship circles, I got that personal support. And I could ask questions saying, I'm really curious about that because in my other training, I've worked this way, but I know Mavis does it this way. So can you give me a little more feedback as to how I might work? And what I've always heard is really be in your own process, right? It's not about competition and comparison. It's really about allowing the process to unfold.
All of a sudden you realize you've changed the way you discuss things with spirit. You go from peppering them with questions to all of a sudden, well, let's make this, like Mavis says, let's make it more like a conversation with spirit and let them tell you what they want to tell the sitter.
The quality of instruction is, first of all, such a safe place to practice these really new things and a really deep level of experience on the part of the teachers.
I think you can learn something from all of these teachers and take little nuggets away from all of them. Mavis is obviously advanced, and just hearing her lectures over the years has just been life-changing.
This is a natural ability. You can do this. Yes, it's work, but you're also not alone in it.
This helps people overcome grief, overcome the trauma of it, overcome just the sheer magnitude of it. I've gone through some really serious grieving myself, and it takes time, but it does make a difference, and it does change your perspective when all of a sudden you realize death is not the end.
It is life-changing, life-enhancing. There's no question. You will be changed by taking this class.
If you feel that little nudge, follow it and keep following it. If you have that nudge, you're supposed to do it.
Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome to a very special online event today. It's called Explore the Transformative Power of Evidential Mediumship. Learn how you can serve as a healing catalyst by delivering trustworthy messages of love between the two worlds. My name is Stephen Dyna. I'm the founder and CEO of the Shift Network, and one of the things that's really become clear to me in recent years is that mediumship can change the future of this planet. And two of the people who've really helped to make that realization alive in me are here today to really share more about why this communication across the veil in an evidential way that's grounded, that's psychologically sophisticated, that is spiritually aligned, have such a deep impact on people's lives and can be such a gratifying path to pursue for those who would like to be of wider service. So we're here with Jean Else, who is a master's degree. She's a chief executive and director of the Mavis Pittilla Authorized Teacher Training Program. And we're also here with Suzanne Giesemann, who's a mystic, medium, and author, and has been taught so many programs now for Shift and really just helped bring this whole field to the foreground for Shift and really the world. So Jean and Suzanne, thank you so much for joining here today.
Pleasure. Great pleasure.
Always great to be here.
Great. And so we're going to dive in. We're going to learn a bit about evidential mediumship today, and we're going to talk about the Evidential Mediumship Academy, which has really become the premier place to train for people who aspire to do mediumship. It's a multi-year program that allows you to really go through the spiritual development required to become a voice between the worlds. We're going to hear more about that in the second half of the hour, and but it's a really incredible opportunity that we're going to be now on our third cycle with. So let's begin our time together with a little bit of backstory. And Jean, I know your story is really central to this Evidential Mediumship Academy. And so why don't we start with you, and then we'll go to Suzanne afterwards.
Well, it is central, but only because of the wonderful Suzanne Giesemann, who contacted you to invite me to run this program based on this lady behind me in the photographs, Mavis Pittilla, who was my wife for 23 years, but a medium for over 55 years. And I'm sure Suzanne will give the real description she normally does about Mavis, but one of the most experienced mediums in the world that's covered these last 2 centuries. And it's because of Mavis and her legacy that I'm delighted to be involved in this wonderful program with Shift, which is now in its 3rd year. And it gives me great delight once again to work with Suzanne on another year, and of course work with Shift, who I think have honoured Mavis's teachings in such a way that no other could have done, because people get transcripts, they get video recordings, they get audio recordings, and so Mavis's legacy is never forgotten.
Beautiful. Suzanne?
Yes, I've been a medium since 2009. And that was the year that I attended a college in England where Mavis was teaching. I was told that if you're going to study mediumship, you got to go study with Mavis Pittilla, evidence-based, very renowned and respected teacher. And so I did. And she held my feet to the fire. She was a tough taskmaster, but the best teacher I could imagine. And so over the years, we became colleagues as I began teaching over a decade later. And to demonstrate mediumship with Mavis on stage was one of the greatest honors. When Mavis passed, I thought, oh my goodness, that's a loss to the world. But instead, because Jean has this repository of Mavis's teachings, the videos, and has attended and taught with Mavis over the years, she has kept her alive. But what's funny is, just as we started this session, I tuned into Mavis, who's always right here, and she showed me, wrapping her arms around all of her students, always, that she is always part of any class where she's brought up, where she's behind the scenes. And it's lovely that Jean and I were just talking that Mavis brings through evidence of her presence to her students all the time. So for Jean, it's not exactly like Mavis is gone, because she's not. She still has her hands in all of her classes.
It's beautiful to feel that sense of being enwrapped, and you can feel it with the pictures behind Jean as well. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about evidential mediumship and what differentiates it from other forms of mediumship, and why this is like a skill that can be learned rather than just something that's sort of like a blessing of fate to receive. So Jean, what you want to start?
Well, I would always start by saying, obviously evidential mediumship is crucial, but Mavis always said, if I just taught students the mechanics of mediumship, then I failed, because there's so much more to mediumship, and it's understanding themselves and their own soul and spirit, and understanding what goes on in the spirit world with these real people, because that was Mavis's great emphasis. These are real people in the spirit world. And I, as Suzanne has just said, have great evidence that Mavis is still operating in the same way from the spirit world and still teaching from that other world. And I always feel honoured that we're still sharing that partnership together, even though she's physically not here. Doesn't take away that physical loss, but it's something that's reassuring to know that, we're still working together in partnership. And as Suzanne has rightly said, every time there is a class, she's there with the students. She never wanted to stop teaching, and she was teaching up until 2 weeks before she died. So I knew that would continue, and I get great evidence of that. So teaching mediums to be ethical and morally confident and competent and real is so important. But also, you do need the mechanics, but you need the understanding, and you need to know where you fit in the larger picture of the universe. And I'm sure Suzanne will say more about that than me. But this evidential mediumship program has it all, right from the beginnings to people that are more already experienced, that may want to just renew or redevelop their mediumship, because learning is lifelong, and this program presents it all. But yeah, it's absolutely essential in order to really develop every aspect of mediumship.
Suzanne, I'd love for you to reflect a little bit. I mean, I've personally experienced the power of an evidential mediumship session with you, and how these really crystal clear little details is like little like pows going off in our psyche of like, wow, all of a sudden the game changes when you know that you're really talking to somebody on their side. So maybe share a little bit about your experience with developing as an evidential medium and training others, and why that evidential aspect is so important.
Well, because I was not a born medium and I didn't even know there was an afterlife, I was very, very skeptical when I first went into this whole arena as the receiver of a reading when my stepdaughter passed. If that medium had not given us evidence, I would not have been convinced that my stepdaughter still survives, even though my soul knew it. So evidence in mediumship is absolutely critical to get past the human mind that needs to know this is real, because our souls know that our loved ones are still here and the messages speak to our heart. But the evidence stays with us when the human side says, oh, look at this, look at that, I got my proof. I just did a reading on camera for a documentary recently, and a lot of pressure there. And that's something that is wonderful about this certificate program that we're offering, that we really have to hold our feet to the fire and do readings under pressure, because these often come up in this work. But when you rely on the spirits, who are, like Jean said, still real people, still here, to give you the evidence, you learn that they will do that every time. So one, just as an example of what is evidence, a really cool thing that happened in that pressure reading on camera was I silently asked the young woman across the veil who we were connecting with, tell me something that your mother's done recently. Give me a current event, because that's always nice to let people know they're still part of our lives. And she put a bird in her mother's hand. And I tuned in, and it felt literal, but that seems silly. And I said, well, your daughter's told me that just recently, within the last day or two, you have a bird in your hand, which doesn't make sense to me. And she said, oh, well, I own a bird. I hold it all the time. I held it this morning. And I just thought, the spirit people know more than we do. Right? She knows her mom. So evidence just leaves you with those beautiful, I call them gold nuggets, that you can hold on to and that people end up telling their friends. And I still remember some of the moments from your reading, Stephen, and I know that you do too, because they stick in your mind to let you know this is real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the evidence really, there's something about that. I like what you said about the sort of your soul already knows, but your human mind is still needs kind of convincing. And there's something about this realignment of your human egoic outer self with your soul that's so important. And Gina, I'd love for you to share a little bit about that, about how this journey of becoming a medium is about a sort of realignment of your personality and your soul in a certain way.
Yeah, I mean, Mavis used to talk about the soul mind and the conscious mind. So as Suzanne says, our soul mind already knows, but our conscious mind often interferes and destroys the confidence of the soul mind. And I think that's very important to understand. And it's about learning how to control the conscious mind. So Mavis talks about the lion and the lamb. So the conscious mind is the lion and the lamb is the soul mind, and it's about getting the lion to lie down with the lamb. That was always Mavis's metaphor. But a good example of the spirit kind of giving us the opportunity to know that they really are with us was when I was told a couple of months before you contacted me to run this program initially that I would be working with Suzanne. And, Suzanne's in America and I'm in England. We were going to meet up in England later that year because she was coming over to run a program. But I just thought, oh, she'll have me selling the books at the back of the hall. That's really what I thought. And then contacted me to say Suzanne had recommended that I ran this program because I'd already graduated 15 Mavis Pittilla teachers. So evidence of in the life now is so crucial. And I think Suzanne's right in terms of, we need to know that there's something that is evidential to just remember. But as you go on this journey, you not only realize that the soul is something that is the everlasting part of you, but that it is a repository of so much knowledge and understanding because it is linked already with the spirit world, and therefore part and parcel of that communion is naturally there. And it's only the conscious mind that we have when we're in this human form that tries to dissuade us that that's not real. So this evidential mediumship program will allow people to realize that if they can develop that understanding of themselves, the soul and the spirit, which is the link to all that is, the link to the great intelligence, the supreme intelligence, whatever the name you have for God or any other divine experience. Once you begin to understand that we're all connected anyway, then you realize the barriers are not there for that connection. It's only because of our human form that we create those barriers. And that's what I find the most wonderful experience, when you see people have that aha moment and they realize now that there is no barrier. There's only a false barrier there.
I want to add a little bit to the story of the founding of the Academy, because I kept getting the nudge to ask Suzanne about doing a longer format training or certification, and she had turned me down twice before, but I keep getting the message, and so finally she's like, okay, I'm getting the message. I should at least listen to you one more time, and then it led to this. So I'm very convinced that Mavis was sort of busy nudging all three of us from the other side. So I think that's a good example also of what can happen once the portal's open in that communication, because there are deeper game plans for what wants to unfold in life that we may not see at the time, and our personality selves can't see as well as some of the spirits out there. So it's very real and practical what this can lead to. And Suzanne, I'd love for you, are there other examples for you of like how, being able to communicate in this way like opened up a whole new pathway for people?
It's been a joy for me, as I've just finished traveling the country for 8,000 miles, sharing my Wolf's Message documentary, that at every one of the 18 live events I've done, at least one, if not two and three, people have come up to me separately and saying, I'm in your year-long certificate program with Jean Ellis, the Mavis's course. And they are so excited about practicing mediumship. They're so excited about being totally immersed in this. You can feel their joy. You can feel their soul shining. There's just no doubt that they were called, they answered the call, and they're loving the experience and making friends. And many times they don't realize that fellow participants are at my events because they're meeting online, or they may be in small groups and didn't realize that they were all coming to the same event. But to see the way people are spread out across the US and the world because of the internet, and yet to realize that our souls brought us all together, that's that integration there that we're talking about.
Jean, I'd love to go back to you and ask a little bit about Mavis's core insights around the worlds within worlds, is sort of understanding a little bit the layers of the soul's journey and how that relates to mediumship.
Yeah, well, it's going back to Mavis's 55 years of being involved with the spirit world, but her journey began quite spontaneously when she was told, when she only had 3 months to live, to go find a man appeared in the living room quite spontaneously. She didn't know anything about spirit, and a man appeared and said to her, go find a healer or you won't hear the New Year bells. And of course she thought she was going mad because she was on medication. And to cut a very long story short, you can read it all in a wonderful book written by Suzanne called Droplets of God. But her husband went into work the next day and his friend said, how's Mavis? And he said, her husband said, I think she's losing it. I think medication's impacting on her because, and he relayed the story. And this gentleman said, I'm a healer. I'm a spiritual healer. And that's when the journey started. And very soon afterwards, she was introduced again spontaneously, sitting with her husband. She fell into what she thought was a sleep. And when she woke up, the husband said, I've just been talking to a Chinese man. And she'd gone into a spontaneous trance. And Mika-san, who is Mavis's guide, and still, I believe, working with Mavis, came through to her husband and told her husband all about the medication she would receive and what was going to go on as the journey forward began. But after that, of course, that link with Mavis and Mika-san, she then consciously got to know Mika-san, and she always called Mika-san the chairman of the board. And he was as much an educator in mediumship and the spirit world as any physical mentor was on the earth for her. And she had two wonderful mentors on the earth, but she always thought that Mika-san was her greatest teacher. And of course, being as Suzanne is, an inquirer, she wanted to know what happened in the spirit world. So she talked to Mika-san about it, and he presented her with Worlds Within Worlds, which is a wonderful, if you like, example of a simple way of explaining what happens when you leave this earth and go into the spirit world and the opportunities you have to develop and meet with people. But he did say that it was only symbolic because he could not explain the whole scenario because it would blow her mind. But the worlds within worlds are really wonderful. What happens when we transition to the spirit world, who's there to meet us, how we learn to adapt in the spirit world, the opportunity for a life review to see those things that have been beneficial on this journey on the earth, or those things that have worked against some of our development. But there's no judgment from anybody else. It's just our own review of our own lives. And then beyond that, the opportunity, obviously, to make amends with people on the earth that we might have hurt or cause some distress to, and also the opportunity to come back and tell people we love them and to still share in their lives. And beyond that, moving on to more advanced worlds and understanding, and more opportunity for people to become more ascended souls, if you like, which is key. And it's a wonderful lecture that Mavis presents, because obviously not only did she get it firsthand from Mika-san, she's lived through it and experienced it in her astral travel to the spirit world. So rather fascinating. And I don't think there's anything out there with anybody else of the nature of that.
Suzanne, I'd love to build on what Gina's saying there and talk a little bit about the sort of spirit guides and how souls can actually start to serve a different guiding function and become part of a team, which I know that is part of what a lot of people are very intrigued about when they contact spirit world.
There's no doubt that we have help when we work with the spirit world. We're never alone. And I know that one of the things that differs in our teaching is our terminology. Mavis may talk about guides and inspirers. I talk about spirit guides and in different form, but it all comes down to the fact that those across the veil know that we are here to serve others, and they help us, just as Mavis has dropped in on me when I'm doing my master classes for the certificate program, or even a couple of times during my regular meetings. She'll jump in and just give me a little nudge and say, don't forget this. It just like a colleague working together. It's just fascinating to me how we don't have to do anything alone. And that, to me, gives us comfort and also helps increase our awareness of how very present those in the spirit world are.
I wonder if you can share a little bit more about just how having this access to spirit guides is really a transformative force in your just personal life, beyond just even doing readings for other people now.
I can't imagine going back to my life without knowing that my guides are here as constant companions and resources for advice and guidance and answers. Just went through a very challenging month, and all along the way, my guides just showing me, look into that, pull that thread. This is a lesson. This is happening for a reason. And working with them, it just makes life flow so much easier. I never once during this past month of trials said, why is this happening to me? I didn't ask why at all. I just turned to the guides and said, what do I learn from this? What's my next step? It changes everything to know that things do happen for a reason. It's all about our soul's growth, and that we are given these companions to keep us on track. Boy, was I nudged back on track with some major wake-up calls along the way. And I credit that to my guides. So they become constant companions, helpers, teachers, and supporters from the highest level.
I love that.
And sorry to interrupt. I think the thing to emphasize there is that, and we've all got them.
Everybody.
It's just that the majority of people never know that they've got them. And this is part and parcel of this evidential mediumship program, will help people open up to their guides and inspirers. And I think that that's one of the key components of this program.
One other area that I think would be good to talk about before we explicitly talk about the Academy is the importance of ethics and the ethical foundation and the practices that really ensure a kind of safe and supportive container for this work. And I know that's a real strong focus of your training and Mavis's training. And you want to share, Jean, a little bit more about how you really see the ethical foundations of working in this field?
Absolutely. And they're even more key now, Stephen, than ever they were before, with so much media coverage and opportunity as well to use artificial intelligence incorrectly and so on. And we've always known, and this is one of the problems with mediumship, there are a lot of fraudulent people out there, either psychics or people that purport to link with the spirit world. And the one thing that Mavis absolutely held absolutely precious was being morally and ethically honest. So she would always say, I don't know. If she didn't have an answer, she would say, I don't know. She wouldn't purport to give a message from somebody in the spirit world if it was herself psychically tuning into that person, which again is a natural ability, but will develop more fully along this program to develop your psychic ability. So sometimes you can read a lot just from the auric field of the person. And if Mavis did that, she would always say, this is Mavis Pittilla talking. But if it was somebody in the spirit world, it would be a partner, a brother, a sister, a child, whoever was communicating. And there's a distinct difference. Some people now can research information about people on the internet, and then in some kind of reading or sitting, they can then produce information that they've not received from anywhere other than obviously fraudulently. And Suzanne's got a wonderful expression, so I'd pass to Suzanne for this expression, but Mavis concurred with it totally. But Suzanne's is the simplest and the nicest way of saying it, which is
do no harm. And that is to not harm your client, your sitter, when you do a reading by saying anything that will hurt them emotionally, but also don't do anything that will harm mediumship. When I found out through a personal reading after my stepdaughter died, the healing potential of an accurate evidence-based reading, I saw this work as sacred, and it truly is. It's sacred for the healing it provides. It's sacred for the opportunity for those across the veil to show their loved ones here, I'm still here. I'm still part of your lives. To me, there's nothing more sacred than this connection, that knowing that we are divine and that connection continues. And so to protect that at all costs is the goal. And being an ethical medium does that. That means constantly putting yourself to the test. Am I respecting this sacred practice? Am I being completely honest and ethical? I don't stretch anything in a session. If I say something and somebody says, oh, I think they're showing you this, but I know that's not what it is, I don't just try to get a yes so I look good. You have to be ethical and say, no, that's not it. Let's dig a little deeper with the spirit here and see what they're really trying to show us. Or simply, I'm sorry, I'm not getting it. To be honest and ethical is huge. I have a new book out, Making the Afterlife Connection, and the Daily Mail in England ran 3 excerpts, 3 days in a row. That's a big audience. And I rarely look at comments that people put on my YouTube channels or such, that I don't pay attention to them unless they need a reply. But something made me go in and look at the comments on the Daily Mail. I was stunned by how many people said, people actually believe this mediumship. I just was stunned that there are so many people out there that don't know about evidence-based mediumship. If they did, the evidence would convince them. And my point is, when you have good evidence-based mediumship, the evidence speaks for itself. And then it's just a matter of people have to get past their own biases, their own belief systems that I call their BS, right? Belief system.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that in training evidence-based mediums who are holding the highest ethics, who have integrity as number one and do no harm, that we are helping to change that worldview that people have, that mediums are frauds. Because when you're coming from the heart, it's very clear this is a healing modality of the highest caliber.
And a miracle. And of course, going back to the worlds within worlds, we've all got to go to the spirit world. We've all got to review our lives. So those fraudulent people out there will have to face the consequences of how they've hurt, injured, or alarmed people. Whereas the ethical and moral mediums that we train on this program will be able to go to the spirit world and know that they have brought this healing between two worlds. They'll know that they've communicated this miracle, because it is a miracle. And, you know, and the fact that we were given, if you like, this opportunity to communicate with people in the spirit world to prove that there is no death should be held, as Suzanne said, in the highest esteem possible. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I love the way both of you hold this, and it is interesting how many people still have like this assumption that it's all fraudulent or who believes this mediumship stuff, because I really see this as part of the future, that's going to become commonplace for everybody to have a medium that they consult with to make contact with the other side when their loved ones depart and there's unresolved things that they want to heal, or there's messages that they want to get. It's so powerful and healing. And I could say, even as somebody who's been on a spiritual path for 30 years and done a lot of stuff, that session with you, Suzanne, was profound and really beautiful, and really touched not only me, but my wife and her whole family. It was her father who came through, and it was really, it's healing no matter where we are on our own spiritual path, to have these messages get anchored in and to be real, and to have real communications from real beings on the other side. It's a beautiful thing. So let's shift gears and talk more explicitly about the program and how it's structured. And this is really the premier training in the world online to do this work. It's a 12-month training. That's just year one, but the year one gives you a lot of the foundations. So the training is called the Evidential Mediumship Academy. And it's really been designed to align with Mavis's teaching step by step, transmitted through Jean, and then with master classes with Suzanne that really give you a comprehensive path and support system and groups. And we'll talk a little bit about all the different support systems to spiritually grow into these skills and capacities and mature into your own soul's knowing of how to engage not only spirits on the other side, but really life in general. So you can see the Evidential Mediumship Academy at evidencebasedmediumship.com, evidencebasedmediumship.com. The subtitle for the program is Essentials Training, Communicating with the Other Side with Integrity, Heart, and Accuracy. And those three things are really watchwords for the entire program, which aligns with the ethical foundations we just discussed. So, Jean, I'd love for you to share in your own words what your intentions are as the lead for this academy, for folks who do this first year. How do they grow? What do they learn? How do they blossom as a result?
Well, it's all based on Mavis's legacy. It's all designed to be incremental. So each session builds on another session. It's designed to provide a huge knowledge base, because in order to really appropriately become a good medium, you need the knowledge and the understanding. And Mavis was a lifelong learner, and she continued to learn right until the end. And I'm sure in the spirit world, she's doing the same now. So it's about, I talked earlier about understanding yourself, your soul, and your spirit, being aware, and Suzanne's the best of this, of all those things that are going on around you that contribute not only to your life on the earth, but that link with the spirit world. Awareness is key. And then obviously knowing that we came to this earth with an architect's plan. So we've already got that route map, if you like, inside of ourselves. So we are on a journey. Sometimes we might deviate from it, but we're often brought back. And one of the things I'd like to emphasize, because some people listening to this will be thinking, oh, that's very interesting, but I don't think I can do it. Mavis always said, you might think you can't, but your soul can. And so if anybody's interested in this and feels driven to find out more, it's the soul calling that's key. And so it's understanding the soul. It's learning about how to blend, how to build your power, how to really have a communication with people in the spirit world, not just sit there saying, is there anybody there? Which I think everybody does. I'm sure Suzanne will agree to begin with, until you learn that you've got this big part in your mediumship and communication. It's about a partnership with the spirit world. And obviously that partnership is key, because there are so many people needing comfort, hope, and support on the earth. And for mediums to be trained to the highest level, which is what we do, they can help in that support of the people on the earth. And Suzanne talked earlier about some people not even recognizing that there is life after death. And that was, again, a key focus of Mavis, that, you know, there is no death. Tell out the mighty message. And there is no death. Go tell it far and wide. And that was Mavis's key desire in terms of her mediumship. Obviously, there's the craft and the understanding, the mechanics, that's key as well. There's the understanding of the real people in the spirit world. The entire program is profound in that it covers every aspect of what Mavis used to refer to as the whole medium, not just mechanical medium.
Well, I look forward to going into the curriculum in a moment, but it'd be great also, Suzanne, to get a little bit from your vantage, having done this 8,000-mile tour and met with so many different people. What are you hearing about how this has shifted people's lives doing this training?
They're learning so much more about themselves than they expected. They're learning what they're capable of doing. They're creating friendships that will last a lifetime with their fellow participants, because they have a shared journey, a shared mission, shared desire to serve others. If I could just pivot a little bit here, one thing I want to emphasize to piggyback on what Jean was saying is that there, and what you said, Stephen, there is no program like this out there. It's absolutely multi-layered. With, you have Jean giving these foundations, you have Mavis trained teachers who are taking on the small groups, then I come in to do the master classes. It's just, they love the variety. They love that it's not just one same class week after week. It's variety, and which is what mediumship presents us with. We have to be able to dance and flow with what spirit presents us, and the whole class is structured that way.
I think I should emphasize as well that it's actual access to Mavis teaching. So all the teachings are Mavis on video throughout the years, because I've been able to film her for the last 10, 15 years. So it's not me presenting Mavis's work, it's Mavis directly presenting her own work, which then obviously I can talk about and share with people. And then the teachers in the small groups can again confirm the kind of teaching that Mavis gave them, and they can help transmit those skills and that understanding to their students in these small groups. So it's quite an experience. And the videos of Mavis, and I listen to them every day as I'm editing them, are just remarkable, and you learn something new all the time. But the depth of her 55 years teaching is in those videos.
And if I could add, one thing that I love about the master classes, this will be the third year that I do it, is that even though there is a subject for every one of these classes, I come in and I bring the latest examples from my latest interactions with the spirit world. And then there are always teaching points in there. Look how this went, look how that could have flowed. Now, this is how you might want to work that into your mediumship. So it's legacy, real time. It's just the whole big picture.
Really great stuff. Well, let's go through the curriculum to give a little bit of a sense for how it flows. There's 9 units separated into 3 different parts for this the whole year long. Part 1 is called Understanding the Whole Medium. And then Unit 1 is Understanding Yourself, the Spirit World, and Ethical Mediumship. Jean?
Absolutely. And it's key because I don't think when you start on this journey, which sometimes can be spontaneous in childhood for many people, or sometimes can be brought about by trauma, or as in Suzanne's case, it was trauma because losing Susan, but also you went through 9/11 and losing all those souls there. And it was Suzanne's interest and investigative prowess really that led her to this journey. Whatever way you come into it, it will be soul driven. And so understanding yourself is key, and how we react and interact with the planet. I think Suzanne sometimes calls it a web, and I'll let Suzanne talk about that more, but we're impacted by the sun, the moon, the stars, the sea. We're impacted by our physical lives and our relationships with people. So you've got to really know yourself, because you've got to know when you can work at your best and when it's more difficult to do that. So understanding yourself is key, and also making sure that you are taking care of yourself and your family, because this can become an obsession and you can neglect aspects of your life that you shouldn't. And Mavis always believed that it was no good being so heavenly that you know earthly use. So we try and get the balance between this spiritual development, which is wonderful, and obviously looking after our own on the earth and our families and our friends and so on. So we do try and strike a balance there. And then it's about understanding, if you like, what makes that communication with the spirit world work. So I talked before about the awareness of the planet, looking at signs and symbols that are around us all the time that the spirit world might use, but also being aware, if you like, of your own power within and building that power to then communicate with the spirit world. And many people don't really understand what power building is. They assume it will naturally happen, and it does. It is a natural thing, but until you're aware of it, you wouldn't know that. And then it's about really looking at, as I said, the spirit world through understanding what happens when they go to the spirit world, and therefore really want to then communicate with us, because as Mavis always said, what's the first thing you'd want to do when you go to the spirit world? And it's come back to tell the person that you love that you've not left them, and that you love them just as much, and that you're in their life. And again, she used to say it was like being sandwiched between two sources of love. And she always said there was no better feeling than that communication. It was better than any drugs. It was like being a bottle of champagne. That was Mavis's explanation. And so we want these students to feel that love, that the sandwich between, and feel like that bottle of champagne as they're giving communication to other people.
Beautiful. So it sounds like you covered a little bit of Unit 2 and 3 there, building the bridge for mind to mind.
Or did I?
Well, was that all still just Unit 1?
Well, they all integrate into one another, really. You can't teach anything totally separately. It's a journey, if you like. But each unit will build in more depth on everything that we teach. So it is incremental, but at the end of the day, it's all about one journey, really, and that journey is about communicating with the spirit world. So it does all kind of overlap a little.
Okay. Suzanne, do you want to share anything to build on what she was just sharing?
You learn when to speak and when not to speak. And she just said everything there, and we don't always have to fill in all the spaces. That was beautiful, and I have nothing to add to that.
Beautiful. So we don't. I guess we don't have to go through every unit in detail, because we're getting a lot of the broad brushstrokes here. So part 2 is all about exploring the spirit world and the ethics of communication. So Unit 4 on uncovering death's mysteries to enhance life's journey. Unit 5, different forms of communication for ethical mediums. And Unit 6, working with guides and inspirers in developing private sitting skills. Do you want to just paint a picture of add some detail to what all part 2 is going to cover?
Yeah, well, I think the major thing is, alongside this education and this knowledge, which is deeper than any other program that you'll ever go on, is you will be given the opportunity to not only work with fellow students in your own small group, but ultimately at the end of the first 3 months, you'll get the opportunity to work with students in other groups and practice psychic readings and private readings. And again, there's an art and a craft in that, and we'll take you through that and hold your hand right the way through. If you're already doing some of that, then we'll show you how to deepen that communication, because the majority of people that are already on a journey eventually reach, and Suzanne will talk about this better than me, eventually reach a plateau, if you like, where you need that further information and help to take it deeper and further. And if people don't do that, then sometimes they give up because they feel frustrated because it's not going any further. And there's always a way to deepen it and to strengthen the mediumship. So I think Suzanne will probably be better at talking about that than me.
Suzanne?
I've had people, former students of mine, reach out to me and say with excitement, I've done it. I've taken the leap. I've signed up for the year-long certificate program. And you can feel their excitement, but you also feel their trepidation because they know this is a big step. This is a commitment. But I'm so thrilled for them because of that commitment. They are going to have to practice. And that is the way we get better. I tell people that to this day, I consider every reading I do as a professional medium practice. Even though they're real readings, we learn from every reading we do. The spirit world is always surprising me with their creativity, their cleverness, the layers of depth they can give us. So there's no end to this journey. That to me is beautiful. It's always onward and upward. And so to start off from year one, having to practice with each other, that's what I talk about, holding your feet to the fire, is such a gift. And I know it makes people nervous, but when you realize that is the way to get better. It's one thing to hear about things and learn in a classroom setting how it works, but to put it into practice, to actually do mediumship and the readings is how you get better. And this program provides opportunity after opportunity to do that.
The spirit world as well are supporting the students in their practice. They know that they're practicing, but they equally know that as they develop and become more confident and competent, that they will be, if you like, I was going to say the medium, it's not the right expression in this context. They will become, if you like, the person on the earth that will provide the spirit world with the opportunity to communicate properly with their loved ones, with messages of love and support and healing. So practice is important, but the practice is determined really by the desire of the student to become the best medium they can be. And that's what we hope to achieve with people. And so I'd urge anyone to sign up for this program.
Gina, I'd love for you to share a little bit more about the Mentorship Circle teachers and some of their background and their dedication, because it really is a full teaching team for this academy.
Yes, at the moment we've got 12 Mavis Pittilla graduate teachers that have been on this program now for 3 years, but have been trained and developed through our program with Mavis and myself over many years. Most of them have been with us 6, 7, or 8 years, some even longer. So they're not novice mediums. It was just that they started this shift program new when it began 3 years ago. So they're very competent and knowledgeable people in Mavis's ways, and that's key. So everything that they talk about, everything they share with their understanding and with their observation of the students practicing will help them to learn Mavis's ways. And the one thing that is often said, if you cut one of these mediums in half, Mavis Pittilla would be writ large in the middle of them, because everything that they've learned over the years is through Mavis's teachings. So there's a consistency no matter which group you go in. And the one thing is, these teachers are mainly American teachers, although we've got three European teachers, and they're all scheduled at different times of the day, so that the students can choose which circle they go into. But the circles will be small, and they'll be designed entirely for developing the medium skills and practice. So the classes are one thing where you get the knowledge and the understanding, and the circles are where the practice takes place. And I believe you me, every single one of those teachers at the end of the year is immensely proud of what their students have achieved. And one of the things that Mavis and I made sure when we were developing this program, that of the whole medium, was there is pastoral care in it. So these students are not just left to flounder, they're cared for, they're supported, they're given that embrace, if you like, to know that even if it doesn't work right the first time, eventually it will work because everyone has been there. And Mavis's expression, which is possibly an English expression, was they've all been there, done it, and bought the t-shirt. So they've gone through this experience of being fearful, of struggling to make a contact, and they can tell from their experience, they can tell the students, we have been there, but look at us now. So I think that's rather wonderful too.
Yeah, it's a wonderful aspect of this program and really allows that sort of close personal mentorship that's so key. So I want to circle back on the third segment of the curriculum over the year. So part 3 is on spiritual, historical, and craft aspects of mediumship. There's a Unit 7 on understanding the God source, inspiration, and history of mediumship. There's a Unit 8, experience the craft in all aspects of mediumship. And Unit 9, review your progress and design the path forward. So, did you get some extra color on the third arc of the training?
Yeah. I mean, you start off with craft and delivery, and though it's down as a title later on, the craft and delivery all the way through is there, but we're showing you more advanced techniques later on. So obviously the simple techniques to begin with, but gradually as you go through the year, we'll give you more advanced techniques and show you examples of Mavis doing it. Mavis always believed that you should have an understanding about the development of mediumship, because she always said we stand on the shoulders of giants. I believe, and I'm sure Suzanne believes, that Mavis is one of those giants. She never saw herself as that because Mavis was very humble. She would be amazed that all this is happening in her name. I've no doubt about that. But it is important that people understand where we are in this progression. And we talked earlier about the development of media and in artificial intelligence. So we're in a big transition in terms of where mediumship might go. But Suzanne and I and all the teachers believe that we want it to go in this ethical way that is genuine communication between the two worlds. But we will be sharing with you Mavis's overview of some of the history, definitely a lot of the craft and delivery. There are examples of Mavis giving private sittings, psychic sittings, spiritual assessments, demonstrations even with Suzanne at certain stages, inspirational speaking. Mavis always believed, and Suzanne's the best of this, always believed that inspirational teaching could touch more souls than sometimes the demonstration of mediumship could. And she always believed that inspiration can help the helpless, give hope to the hopeless, and give love to the loveless. And so we do deal with inspirational speaking as well. In terms of the God source and prayer, again, it's not the conventional view of God that we get through Orthodox religion. It's the understanding that this universe is created by this great power, and we can have 1,000 names for this great power, but we're all part of that power, and we've got that God spark or that divine intelligence within us, which is why we're all interlinked. So it's understanding our place in the universe, if you like, and understanding our journey on this earthly journey, and the, if you like, what good we can do whilst we're in it or on it. And mediumship is a wonderful way of expressing that.
Suzanne, I think this would be a great moment to share a little bit more about the kinds of subjects you cover in your master classes, which there's one a month throughout the year.
Yes, Stephen, I I just go through and I look at what the students have looked at in the past month. And then I tune into my guides so that I get something fresh and new and recent and relevant. Not that theirs isn't, but just a different perspective. And it's interesting because I always work in a half an hour of questions and answers if I can. And the students might say to me, well, we learned that Mavis said it this way, but you're saying it that way. And it gives a nice perspective that we don't have to be rigid about this because each student is going to ultimately develop their own style. So that's really important. But when you have such a solid foundation as Mavis brings into this, and then you see how, I may do this a little differently, but it's all going back to the same foundations. That's what I know I bring to the table. The fact that I show that, hey, I was like all of you. I'm not a born medium. Some of them may be, but you can just get to this point where you are so confident in your connection with the spirit world, and it comes from all these things that you're learning. And so I just come back and I emphasize what they're learning, and I add to it with my perspective and recent evidence from the spirit world.
And I've got to say, they are absolutely in awe of listening to Suzanne. And, the questions are always interesting, but they could sit and listen to Suzanne all the time. But it's true, that kind of juxtaposition, if you like, that is not, it is so interesting that it helps us actually explain to the students even more because Suzanne has a different way of doing it. And I think that's important. You need all the knowledge and the understanding that we present, but then you need the real life experience that Suzanne provides for this program, which is wonderful.
Well, I'm going to go through some of the logistical elements here just for a moment, just so people are clear. Again, there's more detail at evidencebasedmediumship.com. So every month you're going to get 3 90-minute theory class sessions. There's 27 total, and that includes time to ask your questions. There's a 90-minute live integration session, 9 of those. You get 30 minutes of group time after each of the Gene's classes. There's 1 90-minute master class per month with Suzanne. There's 4 90-minute mentorship circles, which we were talking about with assigned Mavis Pittilla authorized teachers. So that actually is 36. So that's a big chunk of the program is really doing that more intimate small group work. You'll get video recordings of all the class sessions, mentorship circle sessions, audio recordings, transcripts, online community, and there's actually an optional one-on-one private consultation. So it's an amazing program, the most comprehensive out there. There's nothing like it. The investment for this program is $5,000. There is a payment plan that is available, which can allow you to spread things out. It is also by application. We want to make sure that it's really a good fit between you and the community. And we have an application process that just sort of helps discern that. And we also helps to keep the size intimate and manageable as well. If you apply now and are accepted, you get $500 off the cost of the training, and that's going to be really a great reason to make your decision early. The year-long program is going to start on January 6th and end on December 1st, 2026. And weekly class sessions are on Tuesdays at 9 a.m. Pacific. The weekly mentorship circles have a variety of different days and times from which to choose, and then the recordings allow you to catch up on anything that you miss as well. This is a big commitment of your soul energy and your path. And so I encourage you to read through everything at the page at evidencebasedmediumship.com. Really tune in with everything you've heard today and ask for your own inner guidance. And if you get a yes, even sometimes people will get a yes and they don't know how the finances are going to work out, but somehow they do when you feel like this is a soul's calling, that this is the right next step, then we encourage you to move forward and use the payment plan if you need to. So there's a lot of testimonials. I think you can just get a feeling from what's been shared today, just how much blessing comes into people's lives as a result of doing this program. It really opens up new horizons spiritually, practically, professionally, relationally, and really puts you into deep communion with your soul, which is one of the greatest gifts you can have, as well as guides on the other side. So really beautiful testimonials and so much gratitude. And you really are part of a movement that is changing the world. When we shift from a materialistic, kind of hopeless worldview to one in which we are spirit beings incarnating for a time to learn and to see the larger context of our unfolding, it really is a big shift for everyone's life to really feel that the truth in that and remove the fear of death and partner across the veil to make this planet better is really one of the greatest blessings you can give yourself and others. So again, it's all at evidencebasedmediumship.com, and you'll get the $500 off when you apply right away. So we're at the end of our hour. You two are awesome. I just love being with you. Anything that's still on your heart you want to share with folks who are considering applying for and doing the Evidential Mediumship Academy? So Jean?
Yeah, well, I think the most important thing that you've just spoken about is the resources that this program will provide that will give people, if you like, a library of all the videos and the teachings of Mavis, the transcripts, the audio. Nothing else provides anything like that. And you'll be able to go back time after time, revisit, listen again, and at certain points in your development and understanding, you'll get those aha moments where you think, I didn't quite understand that the first time, but now I'm at this stage in my mediumship. That is so important. And my teachers find that all the time. And so to have that resource bank there at your fingertips, not only during the course of the year program, but to go back and reflect on afterwards, I think is so important. And I would love lots of people to join us and sharing Mavis's legacy, but also experience the joy of Suzanne and all her knowledge and wonderful way of presenting.
Suzanne, any final thoughts from you?
Yes, as I was listening to Jean and just tuning in, I felt Mavis, and she took me right back to one of the very first lectures I sat in on of hers. I was a student. I had traveled across the ocean at the cost of thousands of dollars for my airfare. I had left my husband for a short time, but I didn't like leaving him at all to go do what I wasn't sure was a calling for me or not at that time. And Mavis asked the group assembled, how many of you could not be here? I don't know if I'm saying it right, but you just know you have to be here. And the tears started flowing down my face because I knew I had to be there. It was a calling. And I realized it in that moment. And so as you listen to what we've shared right now, the words mean something, but it's a feeling within you. You'll know, is this something that I have to do? So just act on that. Your soul's calling you. If it is, answer.
Beautiful. So true. And yeah, if we all just align up with what our soul is calling us to do, we can make this world just a radiant embodiment of everything that we intended to when we came. So thank you for reminding us of that, and thank you for just lighting the way with this powerful work that really bridges worlds and heals hearts and opens minds and leads to great spiritual benefit for humankind. So thank you both for leading the way, and thank you all for joining today. And if your heart is calling you, then again, read through everything at evidencebasedmediumship.com and get in an application soon so you get the $500 off. And we look forward to partnering with you to help change the world in beautiful ways. So thank you so much. Many blessings.
Thank you.